Hi, this is Tina Honkus from the U.S. Service Delivery Center, and I'm excited to be talking with you today. As you might remember, last year I talked with you about the journey of the U.S. Service Delivery Center. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the Net Promoter Score. And we really consider that Net Promoter Score a critical metric for the Service Delivery Center because it really tells us what our customers are thinking and how they're doing. And what we found is we really like to gather that feedback from the customer throughout the process. So the customer doesn't get the survey necessarily at the end of the process. They have the opportunity to complete a survey anytime while we're working on them. So, or with them. So, for example, if we're sending an email to a customer, there's always the link there that they can complete a survey and we get that feedback. So we just feel that's really, really critical. What we've learned with the surveys is, we do have the Net Promoter Score, but we did create a drop-down box where customers can give us a little bit more feedback. So they can tell us whether our rep did a great job, talk about the timeliness, or just the process itself. So we're able to capture a little bit more about that customer's experience. The other thing that we do though is if we get a Net Promoter Score of 6 or lower, the supervisor does a root cause analysis and they call that customer back. And it really helps us understand a little bit more about that customer's experience and why they scored us as they did. So what we learned from that is that there's a lot of different things we can do differently within the service center. Sometimes it might be related to our process, or maybe it's just more training or things like that that need to happen. So an interesting example that just recently occurred was when we're onboarding employees to work on a government contract that we have. They have to go through additional clearances. So not only do they go through the MetLife clearances, but they also have to go through government clearances. What happened? This customer scored us lower. When our supervisor called the customer said, well, the reason for the lower score was when I was working on the government site, I had a lot of things I had to complete. It took a lot of time. Then there were things that came back and asked more questions, and I had to redo some things. So as the supervisor was explaining that, we started to really talk about it. And what we realized is that maybe we needed to do a better job up front working with that customer before they even start to interact with the government. So explaining to them that this is going to be a lengthy process. You will be using some different tools. It is the government site. You're going to be completing things. They'll be coming back and asking additional questions. That's all part of the process, and it will be lengthy. And if we do that, the customer has a better expectation as to what's happening as they go through the process. So that was a change that we made by just talking with our customer and based on that Net Promoter Score and what we saw in our survey results. So I think some key things that you can really learn from that Net Promoter Score and do is you might determine that you need to maybe make some process changes or even just strengthening your partnerships, because many times we realize that maybe it wasn't a process that we own, maybe it's a process that's owned outside of the organization, and maybe we just need to streamline some communications or things like that. So we'll work with those areas to make those changes. As far as looking at the surveys, I think some recommendations I would make for you and some things that we really started to do this year were we always looked at the Net Promoter Score as a whole. We looked at it as an entire department. And then the supervisors have always called back whenever we had, as I said, the 6 or lower as a Net Promoter Score. But we really started to look at that data a lot of different ways. So right now we're looking at the data by function. So we're able to run the Net Promoter Score by team. So it might be our organizational alignment team, our new hire team, and we look at it by function. And what we realized is, and then we ranked the teams to see, well, who had the best and who was the lowest. And then the lowest, we started to look at, well, what were some of the things that the customer checked off that made it lower? And one of our lower ones, it was related to timeliness. And it helped us realize that we had to get more cross people trained to help in that area so that we could improve the timeliness of the work. The other thing I think that you can really use the surveys to do is we've started to break them down by individual as well. So everybody sees their Net Promoter Score for the month, as well as, over the course of the year. So you can kind of watch that for like employee trends. So do you have an employee that maybe is struggling with customer service? Maybe they need some one-on-one coaching. Maybe you have a bigger group that just needs more customer service training. So it kind of gives you some other ways that you can look at your data and figure out some ways that you can help move your organization. So in the long run, I have to say, like, the Net Promoter Score and those customer surveys are critical to like running your organization, and they bring so much value to, I think, you and your team members and moving the organization forward. So hopefully I've helped you a little more with your journey, and I'll let you get back to your meeting and your discussions related to the Service Center and the Net Promoter Score. So have a great day and hope to see you all soon.